Hello everyone! Today we're going to be jumping back into Standard with a mono blue artifact deck. Now, this deck is going to function primarily by establishing small threats on the board in the early game, disrupting our opponent's board with a variety of tapping effects, bounce effects, and counter spells, and then winning the game in the late game with various buff spells, making those smaller threats larger. Now, I've gone ahead and divided this deck into 3 piles, so let's go ahead and talk about them one at a time. First up, we've got our disruption spells, so Fading Hope to bounce a creature that our opponent has, or one of our own creatures if we want to protect it. We have that additional ability to scry if we meet that condition of that creature being mana value 3 or less. Now we also have Network Disruptor. This is really good because it's an artifact creature, it has flying, so it's evasive, and when it enters the battlefield we get to tap a permanent. So this is a great way to have a slightly better combat round just by tapping down our opponent's best blocker. Now Machine Over Matter does a very similar thing to Fading Hope. It costs 2 or 1 if we control an artifact creature, which notably we do have quite a few of in this deck, and ways to make them. And it can return any non-land permanent to its owner's hand, so not just creatures. So this is also going to be pretty strong for us. Now, Disruption Protocol is a really good counterspell for us. We could pay 3 to cast this, or we can tap an untapped artifact instead, and it will just counter that spell. Last thing that we have here is the high-speed hover bike. A little bit of an interesting pick because I don't think you see it too often. It has flash, which makes it pretty good. It has flying as well, so we've got that evasive threat. We can turn a 1/1 creature into a 2/2 flyer with that crew ability. That's pretty good. And when it enters the battlefield, we get to tap up to 1 target creature. So again, gives us a little bit more versatility. We can stop our opponent from swinging for lethal, do things like that. So that's pretty good. Now next up, let's talk about some of our creatures and value spells here. Spyglass Siren is really good in this deck. It makes an artifact. So that's good in that it's a map token. Map tokens are also really strong for us here because whether it's +1/+1 counter or a land, it's going to progress our game plan and give us a little bit more value there. Ginger Brute is really strong. It's a hasty creature, so we can swing the turn we play it, and we can pay an additional 1 mana to make sure that it can't be blocked except by creatures with haste. This can be very strong for us since we have ways to tap down hasty creatures that would be able to block the Ginger Brute, and of course, having a hasty threat is fantastic. We can additionally pay 2 mana and tap the Ginger Brute to gain 3 life, which is a great way to stay into the late game if it looks like our life total is being threatened faster than we can threaten our opponents. Moon Circuit Hacker is really good as well, so synergizes particularly well with Spyglass Siren since it has that ETB effect, or Network Disruptor if we want additional tapping to happen here, since we can go ahead and exchange it for an unblocked creature with its ninjutsu ability. It also gives us a little bit of card draw. And of course, if we do keep it on the battlefield, we can discard a card and draw a card, but if we do use that ninjutsu ability, it's just a free card draw when we go ahead and connect, so that's pretty nice to see. Now, next up, we have Subterranean Schooner. This is a 2-mana 3/4 with crew 1. That's really strong. Additionally, whenever it attacks, the creature that crewed it gets to explore, so that's even more value for the creatures crewing it. This is all in all a fantastic vehicle to have in the deck for 2 mana. And then we have Akal Pakal, the first among equals. We're only running 1 copy here, but this is a real value engine in the deck. At the beginning of each player's end step, if an artifact entered the battlefield under our control this turn, we get to look at the top 2 cards of our library, put 1 of them in our hand and the other one into our graveyard. Actually, that synergizes really well with Flash on the high-speed hover bike as well, since we can potentially get this on our opponent's turn. Now, this last column that we've got here, aside from the lands, are our buff spells. Zodic Glyph is really powerful, where we get to enchant an artifact and it becomes a golem creature with base power and toughness 5/4 in addition to its other types, and when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, we get to discover 3. Now, notably, if we put that on something like Network Disruptor, we do have a 5/4 flying creature, so that's super strong. And of course, when it does get put into the graveyard, we can get any of the cards in our deck off of this, so that's pretty strong. Last up, we do have the Retrofitter. This is a toxic creature, so that could be kind of fun, but honestly, that's not going to make too much of a difference for us, but the real kicker here is when it enters the battlefield, we get to have an artifact we control become an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/4 for as long as this is on the battlefield. So this can really upgrade our map tokens, it can make Gingerbrute bigger, it can make any of our artifacts a lot stronger while we have this on the battlefield. Taking a look at the lands, 17 islands, 1 copy of Otawara, so we have some potential additional interaction in the late game, and 2 copies of Mishra's Foundry, so we can dodge board wipes and have an artifact creature pop out onto the battlefield when we need to in the late game. So that's the deck. If you guys have been enjoying my videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on my latest content, and if you do enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. Let's go ahead and see how this deck does. Alright, well this looks good to me. We're going to go ahead and keep Spyglass Siren. We can exchange that for the Hacker next turn. Of course, when we ninjutsu the Hacker, we get to replay the Siren, get another map token. Of course, they could remove the Siren this turn, but we'll see. Nope, looking good, so let's move to combat. Attack. Ninjutsu the Hacker. Again, if they have the removal spell, they'll probably use it now. Either way, we can replay Spyglass Siren. Yep. So we pull the cut down. Spyglass Siren. Next turn, we can start making 5/4 map tokens. Yeah, I'm not concerned about what they hit with this. They should take a Glyph. Glyph is going to be better. And we find Machine over Matter as well. So let's go ahead, animate that. We'll swing out. Looking good. Next turn, if we find another land, we can actually animate that map token and return the bat. That could be fun. Okay, so we're playing up against an Esper deck. Yep, and there's Raffine. No surprise there. Alright, yeah. I think I'm just gonna animate this map token, and we'll swing for 10. We have an incredible board state right now. Our opponent's gonna have to block next turn. And we have Machine over Matter to be a little bit disruptive. They're gonna go up to 7. So we're not threatening as much lethal as we could be if they attack with Deep Cave Bats. They might leave it back as a blocker, though. Nope, they do. Go ahead and attack. Yep, 3. No blocks. We'll just take it. We find a Gingerbrute here. I do like that. Alright, so he's gonna have to block one of our map tokens, so I am gonna swing like this. We can always use Machine over Matter and bounce. But I'd rather just kill. I'm sure our opponent's hanging on to some sort of interaction. That's the only reason why I didn't bounce there and go for lethal. Yep. Down to 2. So now even with the 3 there, gonna go back up to 5. So he will have to find a way to deal with both of these. Alright, Raffine. Oh, perfect. On the end step, we're going to go ahead and bounce the Deep Cave Bats. They're going to have to counter this, or they're going to lose the game. Yep. Easy. Let's go ahead and move to combat. I mean, they have to block both of those, so I don't even have to pay the 1 on Ginger Brute. I'm gonna hold up Disruption Protocol, but it looks like we got it anyway. Alright, looks like we've got our opponent going first, and a whole bunch of bounce spells. We don't really have a threat here, so we can't keep this. This is gonna be a much better starting hand. I want to keep all the lands. Let's go ahead, do this. High-speed hover bike. I think this is gonna be better than Machine Over Matter for right now, but we'll see. Opponent starts with a tap land. We draw a Ginger Brute, so we're gonna go ahead and attack with the Ginger Brute. Next turn, we can hold up mana, maybe flash in high-speed hover bike, just in case our opponent plays a creature. Looks like we're playing up against one of the domain ramp decks. Pretty strong. We can go Glyph next turn, that'll be strong. Alright, yeah, we'll just flash in the hover bike. Hoverbike has flying. So now here, we're gonna go ahead and use our Glyph on the Hoverbike. It's now a 5/4 flying creature. We don't have to crew it. And we're getting some decent damage through. Now with Network Disruptor and the Hacker here, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Invasion of Zendikar, so we are going to be on the lookout for a board wipe next turn. I wouldn't be surprised. We're going to go ahead and move to combat here. Swing. Replace the Ginger Brute with the Hacker here. Keep the Ginger Brute in our hand. We're going to draw the card. We have another Ginger Brute. We'll go ahead and wait, just in case. If they do have a board wipe, then there's not much we can do about that. Yep, there's Sunfall. Now our Glyph does go into the graveyard, which is going to give us that ability to discover 3. And we find another Glyph that we can put in hand. Unfortunately, I did click on that. That's a misplay. Let's go Network Disruptor here. Ginger Brute. Ginger Brute. And attack. We'll counter this. We are on a 2-turn clock. We do currently beat our opponent at this pace. Yep. They have us on a 3-turn clock. Herd Migration, sure. They don't have anything that can block us yet, and I don't think they're playing anything that will be able to do that either. We can always hold up a Ginger Brute to tap. Alright, so let's move to combat here. Maybe they have a kill spell, I don't know. Let's attack like this. We're gonna use Ninjutsu, replace a Ginger Brute with the Hacker. I do want to keep the Ginger Brute in hand, since we can play that out next turn. And we will draw a card. We find Network Disruptor. I think we're going to hold on to this. Yep. We can swing for 5 next turn, which is lethal, so our opponent does have to do something here. They play out Atraxa, and no matter what they get here, I think we've got it, since Network Disruptor is going to tap down Atraxa, and then Ginger Brute has haste. Oh, perfect, yep. Tapped land. We've got it. So we'll play our land. Network Disruptor. tap Atraxa. Gingerbrute. Attack. And we've got it. Alright, here we are going first. I'm gonna keep this starting hand. Right now, big decision for us is if we want to play out the Network Disruptor for 1 extra damage on turn 1, or if we want to save it for our 3rd turn. I do think we play it out now. We'll tap our own land. That is also worth noting, I didn't bring that up before, but it does tap a permanent when Network Disruptor enters the battlefield. Play out the Schooner. Deal our 1 damage. They also play out the Schooner here. Now we have a couple of options for what we do here. I think that our choice is going to be to make our Network Disruptor a 5/5 and just swing for 5 here. After that, we're just going to start holding up our Disruption Protocol and try and protect this Network Disruptor since we do have our opponent on such an aggressive clock. Again, even if they have their own glyph to make their Schooner a 5/5, I'm not too concerned. Lord Skitter, sure. Cruise and Explores, yep. That is a really good synergy, Lord Skitter, with the tokens and the Schooner. But I'm just going to go ahead and swing for 5 again here. They don't have anything that can block the Network Disruptor, and I'm just going to hold up Disruption Protocol. We're 2 turns out from winning the game here, just off the Disruptor. Our opponent's not going to be able to have that much damage. So as long as we can disrupt them, we should be fine. Okay, lifelink. I actually think I'm okay with this. If we find 1 more land, we can actually play out the Retrofitter. Yep, they're going for more damage, being a little bit more aggressive. Denick with lifelink can be a problem. But we'll see. Again, I want to just protect the Network Disruptor a little bit more. Do I care about this? They're tapped out. I think we will just counter this. And we'll have lethal next turn here. Because we've got 5. Yep. And 4, which is going to be 9. So let's move to combat. Swing out. The rat can't block. And we've got it. Alright, so we're going first here, and this looks great. Gingerbrute, we've got the Moon Circuit Hacker, Machine Over Matter. I think this is a very strong opening. We're going to make our way up to that Glyph. Glyph on Gingerbrute is pretty strong as well. Maybe we'll find something else that's going to be better to put it on, but again, having that evasive ability is going to be really powerful for us. We start with our Gingerbrute, deal 1 damage. Opponent should immediately know what we're up to. We have Machine Over Matter. But either way, we can get the Hacker in next turn. Hacker versus Schooner. I think we go for the Hacker here. Draw that card. Replay the Gingerbrute. It's very likely that our opponent's going to have removal. So going a little bit wide on the board is going to be strong for us. Next turn, Glyph Gingerbrute, unless we're particularly afraid of our opponent using a removal spell. Because we do want the Glyph to actually resolve. Though I'd imagine, just based on our board state, this is going to incentivize our opponent to go ahead and put something out onto the battlefield as a blocker. We'll see. So they just pass here. We do have an alternative option. Let's start with combat. I'm going to swing out here. This is where we draw the removal spell on the hacker. Alright. Discard an Atali. So that's a little bit dangerous for us. Let's play out the Schooner here. And we'll play out the Siren. Get ourselves a map token. We can make ourselves a really aggressive map token if we want. Alright, so opponent's ramping. I think we put Glyph on the map token, just because that's going to give us some more pressure. Glyph on the map token. Yeah, not much they could do there. Let's crew the Schooner with the Siren. And then we're going to swing out here. Schooner might get killed here. We'll see. 2 mana at our opponent's disposal. Might play another Bitter Triumph. Yep, that's fine. Down at 10. We have Machine over Matter here. Alright, so they skip ahead to Chapter 3. They're gonna get a Tali back. What? Alright, well. Alright, so we've got our opponent going first, but a decent start. A little slow, but we're gonna really be relying on those map tokens to get us into the late game. We draw into a Glyph, so that's gonna be really strong. Playing up against a red deck, I don't mind this at all. I'm kind of glad we have some of the extra creatures here, since we can dodge removal spells this way. Fading Hope is also going to be really strong. Oh, never mind. It looks like a Rakdos deck. Maybe we're facing something similar to what we had just seen. Holding up the Bitter Triumph. There is a chance that we see a removal spell here. We can try and force it out. Yep, Bitter Triumph, so same deck. Just go ahead, play out another Siren. I'm actually going to use one of these map tokens. Disruption Protocol. Do I want to draw that? Yes, I do. I feel like stopping them from reanimating is going to be really powerful. Next turn, we can play Glyph on map token. Glyph on map token is going to force the removal spell there, if they so choose. Seems like they don't have it, though. And now, from here on out, we're pretty much just going to be holding up Disruption Protocol to stop our opponent from reanimating Atali. We might want to use it to protect our own creatures since we have such a significant lead, but I'm not too concerned here. Sure, yep, big score. Gets the extra treasure tokens. We have double Disruption Protocol. That's going to be really good for us. So let's go ahead, swing out. We have lethal next turn. Also worth noting, if they do play a blocker, we can get rid of it with Fading Hope. There's not a whole lot that I think our opponent can do to stop us right now. That being said, they do have a bunch of mana, so you can never really know. Okay, so this is just a blocker. I'm okay with this because I can take care of that with Fading Hope. We even get to Scry because it's mana value 3 or less. Wait till the end step. Yeah, Fading Hope. This should be lethal. We have Disruption Protocol being held up. See, maybe they go for a big score here. Try and find something else. We could just counter whatever they've got there, though. So, kind of no big deal. Unfortunately, we actually can't counter that. Since that's not a spell. Deeply unfortunate. That being said, I don't want to draw a land right now. We will draw Mishra's Foundry. That's kind of nice. And honestly, do we want to play out the Disruptor? I don't think so. We actually can hold up our Disruption Protocols. They know we have it. I'm okay with them replaying their creature. We can tap it down with Network Disruptor next turn. Even if they do kill our map token, we do get to discover 3, which could give us any number of creatures that will attack for 1, since 1 will be lethal. Yep, we hold up our counterspell for something else. Move to our turn. Network Disruptor. Gonna go ahead, tap you down. And then I'm just gonna swing. We could also animate the Foundry, but I'm gonna hold up Disruption Protocol, and we've got it. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed. So as we were able to see, this is a really strong aggro deck, and it actually has a pretty solid game plan in the mid-game as well. Now, we focus on those early turns, getting our small threats onto the battlefield, and by turn 3 or 4, we start growing those into bigger threats with things like the Glyph and Retrofitter. One of the things that makes this deck so powerful is the fact that we can kind of hide away our big threats, so things like Subterranean Schooner is a vehicle and will dodge board wipes, same thing with a Hoverbike, and even our map tokens that we're getting off Spyglass Siren can turn into really powerful creatures in that mid-game. Now, if our opponent does have something that's able to block our evasive creatures, so like a creature with haste for Gingerbrute, something with flying, we could just take care of that with Fading Hope or Machine over Matter. And all of those decks that are looking for more late-game strategies can be countered with a Disruption Protocol, where we save this for their key piece of interaction as they're trying to get back into the game. Slowly and steadily, we're going to be chipping away at our opponent's life total until we get that win. And if all else fails, we can rely on Mishra's Foundry for that last little bit of damage that we need to win the game. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, and if you have any ideas for another deck that you'd like to see me play, why don't you let me know in a comment down below. I'll see you all next time.